So let's go for it. Play a head-to-heads and make a final prediction for this massive game. It feels like a big one to me anyway. England versus New Zealand. New Zealand obviously winning those 2 games in New Zealand in the summer, but England really probably should have won one of them. And I said in the last video that this New Zealand team looks scary. It looks better than the summer. And apologies if I scared anyone with my appearance in the last video, feeling a lot fresher and well rested today. So let's get into it with these head-to-heads, see if it's as bad as I think, or should I be more optimistic? Let me know, and do subscribe, do like, get involved in these videos, because I'm going to be going through the whole of the Autumn Nation series, of course. Yes, I know we've got Scotland versus Fiji as well. Doesn't feel like quite as big a game, just because they haven't got their full deck to pick from yet. I mean, Scotland are without their first choice halfbacks of Ben White and Finn Russell. They're not available because this is technically outside of the international window. England and New Zealand, most of their players, play inside those countries, so they can pick them. They are at full strength as such, although, like I said, England I don't think particularly are quite full strength. But anyway, yes, that Scotland-Fiji game will be a good game, but the big thing for me in that game is, are Fiji going to be better because of the Fijian Drua? They can't pick all their overseas stars because it's outside the window, but what they do have now is a fully professional team in Super Rugby doing well, and the core of the team is from Fijian Drua, so they should have good continuity, which has been their problem in the past. I think Scotland will win that one, but it's a good test for that system. Anyway, back to this game, which is what I'm focusing on this weekend. So let's look at those front rows. Gens, George and Stewart starting against Williams, Taylor and Lomax. And I'm worried in the scrum because Williams is massive, he's a beast. Lomax is a hell of a scrummager. And Gens and Stewart, they're not really known for their scrummaging. They can have good scrummaging days. I mean, Gens isn't massive, he's incredibly strong, but he's not massive. Stewart can have good days, he can give away penalties. So really, I'm hoping they hold their own, which isn't a great way to be in these sorts of matches where you want to be vying for one of the best in the world, if you like. Gens and Stewart, if they can hold their own, I'll be very happy with that. The best scrummager for England, I think, at loosehead is Finn Baxter, but he's on the bench, and Cole probably is a better scrummager than Stewart as well. So they're holding back maybe their better scrummagers. Will that pay off? The positive for England is on the bench, they do have some impact this time in the front row. I think Dan and Baxter could have a big impact. Cole less so, he's going to be there to shore up the scrum, do the nuts and bolts. Amua Tuingafasi Tosi is a very strong scrummaging front row to come on as well. Good impact, I think, from Amua especially. So I'm a bit worried in that front row. If England, like I said, hold their own, and then maybe Baxter and Dan can come on and add a bit of firepower, that would be a great day. But I'd say advantage to New Zealand in that area. Second row, we've got Itoje and Martin against Scott Barrett, the captain, and Vai. Itoje's a vice-captain, and let's talk about this funny thing. They've named a load of vice-captains, 4 in all. It's a bit weird. Do you need it? Well, no, of course you don't need it. Every team has other leaders apart from the captain. It's just that Borthwick has chosen to name them and make it formal, and coaches like to do this sort of thing sometimes. I mean, Eddie Jones likes to insist that his substitutes were called finishers. Did it make a massive difference? No, of course it didn't really, but coaches like to do these things. Is it a biggie? Not particularly. Is it a bit weird and annoying? Yeah, but whatever. Anyway, Itoje is a big leader. Scott Barrett is a big leader. He's the captain. And it's going to be a good battle. I see this one pretty much as even. Maybe England could edge this area. If Itoje is fresh, he can be world class. If he's tired, he can be pretty poor. Scott Barrett, the same sort of thing, has big performances, also has had some poor ones as well. I think George Martin at his best could be a fantastic second row, but we've only really started seeing him in his early days for England. Could this be a massive game for him? I hope so. Vai in the summer stepped up big time, and he is probably their best second row now, I would say. So it's a great matchup, very even. Like to see how that goes. The back row. I am worried a bit in the back row for England because we've got Cunningham South against Satiti, who are the 2 youngsters, if you like. But Satiti looks a bit more assured to me, a few less errors, both massive ball carriers. It's going to be a really good direct head-to-head because they're going to be doing a lot of the carrying. I am worried that Cunningham South has the ball a bit loose in contact sometimes. He just needs to retain, get those yards, don't do anything particularly fancy. Then Curry versus Kane, 2 very experienced players. The difference being is Kane is fully fit and in form. Curry is still coming back to form. Can he get to the levels that Tom Curry used to be at? If he can, fantastic. If not, we might lose out there. And Surveyor against Earl, it's a great matchup. Very similar players, very explosive, a little bit smaller. Jinky, great footwork. two top players. So on the whole, I think I'd just give the edge to New Zealand in the pack, but if there are some big games from certain players like Tom Curry, I think we could maybe pull it even. At 9, though, I'm a little bit worried. At 9, we've got Spencer versus Ratimer. Ratimer, very quick, very nippy. Spencer, less so these days. He's more of a kicker. Does that mean England are going to play a kick-heavy game to start with? I don't know. Are they going to get the ruck speed they need? You've got Ratimer and then Roygaard is a hell of a 1-2. We do have Randall to come on, but as long as we're in the game when he comes on, you can't expect him to work absolute miracles. I would have loved to have seen Randall start. That would have excited me a bit more. A few changes to this England team, and I'd be saying, 50-50 maybe, if Ted Hill was in the mix, if Randall was starting, we had a bit more speed in the back line. But just a little bit apprehensive, but please let me know if you think I'm being over pessimistic and I should be much more optimistic about England. At fly half, I am excited to see Smith against Beauden Barrett. It's a cracking matchup. They are actually quite similar players, although Barrett's towards the end of his career, Smith more at the beginning, I guess, or in the middle. And Beauden Barrett has learnt to not overplay. He's got the speed, he had the footwork. Smith sometimes still runs down blind alleys and overplays, but I think he's got better, and if he can get to the levels of Beauden Barrett, fantastic. Now in the centres, if Henry Slade had been playing all season and fully fit and played a great year like he did last year, I'd say maybe fairly even, but I think because he's just coming back, you've got to give the advantage to Geordie Barrett and Ioane. Established pairing. Lawrence, again a 13 playing 12, can be a bit of a worry. Sometimes the ball can bounce off him a little bit, so I would edge that one to New Zealand. Now, does Slade have an 80 minutes of international rugby in him at top level? I don't know. He's just come back from injury, but we don't have any centres on the bench. It's a strange one. Why have England gone for this 6-2 split? Another reason why I'm a little bit worried about England. Who covers centre? Well, it's probably going to be Tommy Freeman, I guess, going into 13, but then someone's going to have to move to the wing. So I guess maybe Furbank moves to the wing or something like that. Marcus Smith to 15, 4 to 10. It's a right old shuffle. Don't really understand why they've done it. There's no reason to do it particularly because England aren't massively strong in the back row, in those forward substitutes. We'll come to those. It's a really odd one with the changes. If they have an injury in the backs or Slade's shoulder goes or something, they could be in big trouble here. On the wings, Freeman is great under the high ball, but so is Caleb Clark, and Caleb Clark has the power and the pace edge on Freeman. Really like Freeman as an international player, but I'd love to see him at outside centre. Lawrence Freeman. So good, I think, if they keep that one running. And Feo Abosu and Mark Talaya are very similar players as well. They work off their wing, in and around the ruck a lot, and can make half breaks. I think Feo Abosu is probably a bit more powerful with his breaks. Talaya probably a bit more footwork with his breaks, but used in very similar ways. It's a great matchup, as is the fullbacks, actually. Very close, I think, in certain areas. Furbank and Will Jordan, very similar players, very quick, very creative. Jordan getting another start at 15, that's good for him to try and nail that down, as he's been seen as the future 15 for New Zealand for a long time, but hasn't quite burst onto the scene, but made a move in the summer. And then we have this funny bench for England, 6 forwards. I mean, this is what's weird. Okay, Ezekwe replacing one of the second rows, absolutely fine. I think he's in good form, and Tuipulotu is in good form. Both grafters, I would say, those second rows. But then why have England got Ben Curry and Alex Dombrandt? I mean, Ben Curry, fine, replaces his brother Tom Curry, okay, get that. But if Dombrandt comes on to 8, where would you move early? You'd move him to 7, but you've already got Tom Curry and Ben Curry, so it's a weird one. You don't need all these back rows on the bench. Plus, they aren't particularly the best back rows in the world. They could have big games, but I don't quite get it. What are they covering for? What are they trying to do? If it all works out, I'll take it all back, but it's a strange one. And New Zealand, they just have Finau on the bench, which is nice straight cover for maybe Satiti, and they can move Satiti to 8 if they want Surveyor to 7, so plenty of cover. They don't need the 6-2, and then they've got Roygaard, who is power-packed pace, so dangerous at 9. Leonard Brown can play 12 and 13, and Mackenzie could slot anywhere. It's a better backline replacement bench, definitely. So that's why I'm giving this one to New Zealand. I'm saying my prediction is head-to-head wise, they look a better team. If they both play about similar sorts of levels, I think New Zealand win this game, and they win it by about 10. If England's players really step up, some of these players coming back from injury, some of the youngsters like Cunningham South maybe, has a massive game, England could absolutely win. They're at home. It's possible, but in my head, I'm seeing New Zealand by about 10. Anyway, guys, let me know your matchups down below. Who's going to win and by how many? Do like, do subscribe. That would be awesome as always, and I'll catch you next time.